Hello. Okay, so hopefully you've watched my previous two videos. The first one was when I first got this guitar, and the second one is going to be demonstrating some of the modifications I made and how I did them. It's not a very long video, that one, but this is the one you've all come to see. This originally was an £150 or around about $250 Kramer Baretta Special, made in Indonesia. It says on the back, made in Indonesia, proudly designed in the USA, 40 years Kramer. So it's a cheap guitar. My aim was to try and make some modifications which would make this guitar stand up next to a much more expensive guitar. Some of the mods I made were just simply sanding the neck or changing the intonation, adjusting the action, and some of them were a little bit, you know, more intense, like adding this Evh Frankenstein Humbucker. I also changed out the volume pot for an Evh branded volume pot, 500k. But was it all worth it? Now, I'm not just going to sit here and say this guitar is worth $1 million. It plays like a dream. But what I am going to say is that it is vastly improved. The sound of the guitar sounds awesome. I'm going to make a fourth video, which is a direct comparison before and after the modifications. So look out for that video. That's going to be plugging straight into GarageBand, and there's going to be a direct comparison playing exactly the same riff, so you can hear, you know, exactly how different it sounded after the mods. At the end of this video, there's going to be a lot of playing. So right now, I'm just going to discuss the sort of the nuances of how the mods have improved or made worse the sound of this guitar. So straight away, I've improved how it plays. The sanding of the neck, you can't really see, I'll show some close-ups later, has really improved the playability. However, I got the action as good as I could, and I got the intonation as good as I could. However, it's still not as nice to play as a more expensive guitar, to put it diplomatically. It intonates as best as I can get it. It intonates as good as I can get it, but it still doesn't perfectly intonate. Now that might not bother you. I'm the kind of player, I'm a little bit anal about intonation. I like everything, every chord position, everywhere on the neck, I like to sound in tune. It's just how I am. So a little bit of a bugbear there that I couldn't intonate it perfectly. One of the things I found was that some of the saddles needed to come closer to the 12th fret, and basically I ran out of screw. So one of the upgrades that I might make, an additional modification, would be to replace the saddles. Now, tuning stability. As I mentioned in previous videos, I got Vaseline and I got a razor, scraped some pencil lead, mixed it with Vaseline and put it on the saddles and on the nuts. Now that has greatly improved the tuning stability, especially, you know, for bends like. However, with the old whammy bar, tremolo arm, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't improved it. What I'm finding is that if you give a lot of grief with the whammy bar, I'm finding, especially the B and the G string, they're actually falling back into position a little bit sharp again. So perhaps one of the things that would improve that would be putting a tusk nut in, or replacing the machine heads. But I'm not a great lead player. I don't use the whammy bar that much anyway, so I'm going to live with it for the moment. Which moves me on to the Evh Frankenstein Humbucker. Now, let me tell you, this pickup is absolutely awesome. I was lucky to get it for 50 quid. I know when they were new, they were really expensive. A little bit too expensive, perhaps. But they sound amazing. They sound like a really kind of like slightly hot vintage PAF kind of Gibson style pickup that gives this chewy, lovely mid-range. I'll demonstrate some chords to you. If you pair that pickup, this pickup, with a decent valve amp, you've got a match made in heaven. I particularly, when you're palm muting, I particularly find it sounds really good with palm muting, like. Nearer the end of the video, I'm going to play 5 Van Halen riffs, 5 early Van Halen riffs, in an attempt to emulate that Eddie Van Halen Brown sound, kind of that was so revered at the time. But I'm going through a Marshall JMP 1C. This was a very limited run in 2012, all valve, 1 watt, get that vintage 70s plexi sound at home kind of amp. It is an amazing amp to record. All I'm doing is I'm plugging directly into this amp with no pedals, nothing. Then I've got 3 microphones in this room in the attic. I've got a SM57, a Samson condenser mic, and at the back I've got another identical Samson condenser mic in the back of the room just to get some room ambience, and that's it. It's going directly into GarageBand. The only thing I'm adding is some reverb because this amp doesn't have reverb. So I'm adding a little bit of reverb, and that is all you're hearing. So it sounds really good. So the total cost of this guitar was probably 150 quid for the guitar, 50 quid on the pickup, other bits and bobs, another 20 quid. So you know, you're looking at 220 quid for this guitar. Now, I am absolutely certain that you would not be able to buy a guitar for 220 quid, which for you Americans is probably around about $300 or something. You wouldn't be able to buy a guitar that plays this good for $300. Yes, you've got to have a little bit of knowledge on how to set up a guitar, get your hands dirty with some sanding, get the soldering iron out to switch out a pickup, but it just proves that with persistence and very little money, you can get an awesome sounding guitar. So I'm going to cut now to me playing some iconic Van Halen riffs, just so you can get a real feel for the sound. And remember, there's nothing really in this signal chain. It's guitar, amp, GarageBand, and a little bit of reverb. The sound you're getting, the kind of like Brown Sound-esque sound you're getting, is due to clever microphone placement. So I'm going to make another video just on capturing that Brown sound, because I think a lot of people will be interested in how I got the sound that I did. Alright, well, thanks for watching. If you haven't seen the previous 2 videos, please watch them. And there's going to be a comparison video, a before and after comparison video as well. Alright, so please subscribe, and thanks for watching.